kids. Hey, mom and dad. How's everyone doing out there? Good to see you guys. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Oh, yeah, that's a thumbs up coming. Well, good to see everyone. Is everyone doing okay through all this weird time? Yeah, everyone hanging in there? Thumbs up if that's a yes. You guys, I know you've been awesome to your parents, so hang in there. Still be nice with your parents, because I know it's a weird time for all of us. But I'm glad you guys are here today, because this is going to be really cool stuff. Before we get into today's show, which is going to be about these guys right here, the weird hadrosaurs, right? You guys recognize these guys. Before we get into that, I just want to thank everyone again who's been contributing to our museum. The museum at Dinosaur Junction, you guys have been so generous. Keep the donations coming, or if you know other people that might be interested in helping our museum grow, that would be fantastic. To give you an idea where some of these donations are going, look at this right here. We just got this. This is a replica, but it's molded from a real fossil Allosaurus foot. Look how giant that foot is, right? This is one of the many things that your guys' donations have allowed us to do at the museum. It's going to be so cool when you guys all get a chance to see it when it opens up, probably by June 1st. And this is one of the many things. So thank you for donations. Donations, of course, there is a button at fossilposse.com. I am Billy Dorn, Billy the paleontologist. My wife Lily and I run Fossil Posse Prehistoric Adventures, and we teach all about dinosaurs in the prehistoric world. And on our website, fossilposse.com, you can learn about the summer camp, which I know a lot of you guys I see there joining us today have been to camp. And some of you guys that haven't been to camp yet, one of these days you will be there. We dig up fossils and learn all about dinosaurs. So fossilposse.com. And also, of course, the Fossil Quest TV show coming up in June as well, where you guys come out into the field with me to hunt dinosaurs and all kinds of other cool stuff. So that'll be really neat. That's coming up in June as well. So let's dive in. Let's talk about these particular dinosaurs, the hadrosaurs. Now, they're not as popular as like T-Rex or raptors. They're maybe not quite as weird as the pterosaurs. They're maybe not quite as gigantic as the giant sauropods like Brachiosaurus. But these dinosaurs, the hadrosaurs, are strange creatures. And you know what else? They're one of the most popular creatures in science for many reasons. One of the reasons is, did you know that it was a hadrosaur that was the very first scientific dinosaur skeleton discovery in the United States? Yep. It was over 150 years ago in the state of New Jersey, in a little town called Haddonfield. So any of you guys that are in New Jersey out there, congratulations. Your state gave up the very first fossilized dinosaur skeleton for science. And that's where it was, over 150 years ago. Now, these guys are strange. Even the name hadrosaur means bulky lizard. That's kind of funny, huh? What does bulky mean? Bulky means kind of big and awkward and overweight and hard to manage, right? That's bulky. It's like when you try and carry a giant box, it's awkward. So their name means bulky lizard to start off with. Let's talk a little bit about these guys. They're so strange. If you look at it, here's a picture. This is one of the hadrosaurs you guys recognize the most. This is the one behind me on this picture here. This is a Parasaurolophus. And this is one of many, many, many different kinds of hadrosaurs. Hadrosaur is the name that describes that dinosaur. As I mentioned before, it's kind of like saying fish, right? Fish, there's all different kinds of fish. There's bass and trout and sunfish. There's tuna fish and sharks. They're all fish. Hadrosaurs had all kinds of different kinds of hadrosaurs that were just similar animals. Parasaurolophus, Edmontosaurus, all kinds. Here's a little picture right here. You can see some of the strange creatures that make up the hadrosaurs. And of course, as I've told you, and I know you guys remember, when you see these pictures in the books, these colors, we're not sure what color dinosaurs were. Look at all these right here. Look at all the strange ornamentation or decoration, ornamentation and decoration, the same word, that was on some of these animals. Now, of course, we're not sure because the skin, mostly the skin never lasts, right? The skin doesn't fossilize. But if we compare those animals to animals that live today, maybe they had decorative skin and all kinds of weird stuff like that. We're just not sure. What we do know is hadrosaurs had a weird mouth. Look at the mouth on these guys. In fact, look at that weird thing sticking off their head. They're so strange, these guys. This guy's nickname was the unicorn dinosaur. Syntosaurus was this guy's name, and his nickname was the unicorn dinosaur. But look right here. Here's what I want you guys to look at. Look at their mouths. It looks like they have a beak, right? It kind of looks like they have a beak like a duck or a goose. And their beaks are called bills. Not like Billy, but bills, like a duck bill. And that's why these guys' nicknames are the duck-billed dinosaurs. Because if we look at this guy right here, you can see his mouth slopes down, and he's got this weird kind of duck bill. He's a funny-looking creature. Now, if we look at a skull to one of these guys, this skull is looking straight at you right there. So you can see that part of bone right there is part of his skull, which is this part right here, right? We have our skull under there. So that piece right there would be covered with a material. Do you remember what we call that material? It's the same stuff our fingernails are made from, the same stuff our hair, and the same stuff a rhinoceros's horn is made from. I know some of you got, yep, some of you guys got it. It's called keratin. Keratin, it kind of sounds like carrots for a salad, right? But nope, it's keratin. And that mouth right there would have been made of a big chunk of keratin, kind of like a horse's hoof or like your fingernails. And it would have been this weird, long, flat kind of thing like a duck bill. And they were strange. There was no teeth in the front of their faces, but in the back of their faces, towards the back, if I hold this picture up again, so right here, there was no teeth in there. That was like a little gripping thing, like to pull branches and things off. Their teeth were way back here, kind of like on a horse. In fact, his head is kind of shaped a little bit like a horse. It's just horses have big fat lips for grabbing hay and grass, where these guys have a mouth more like a duck. But back here, they had a whole bunch of little flat teeth for grinding up grass, just like horses, just like cows, just like a lot of animals that eat grass. And in fact, some of these guys, some of these hadrosaurs could have as many as 1,000 teeth in their mouth. Imagine if you had 1,000 teeth in your mouth, and all those little teeth were used for grinding up. Now, I see some of you guys are raising your hand. I should have said this earlier, but no, a lot of you guys already know how we do this. I'll talk for about 15 minutes, and then we'll do about 15 minutes of question and answer. So hold your questions until that time, okay? And if I dip into my fossil treasure chest here, which you guys always see me with my treasure chest here, this is where I keep all my cool stuff. I have a few hadrosaur teeth. There they are right there. They're kind of long and kind of flat, actually flat. They're not shaped like normal teeth, like a tyrannosaur tooth, right? They're more like something for grinding up grass. They're really weird. But you're thinking, you're looking at that going, well, those are pretty tiny because hadrosaurs were big. Most of them were big. Some of them were smaller. Some of them maybe got 10 feet long, but some of them got almost 40 feet long. That's as long as T-Rex. And that's probably as heavy as a couple of elephants. So they got super gigantic, and they had really tiny teeth, even though they were so busy or so big. But remember, they had almost 1,000 of them. Some of them had almost 1,000 teeth for grinding all that stuff up. So their teeth, if you remember we've talked about before with dinosaur teeth, what's so unique about dinosaur teeth compared to our teeth, right? Now, when you guys are young, I know some of you guys are probably losing some teeth, right? Your teeth fall out, and then a new tooth grows in, right? Your adult tooth grows in. And if that tooth falls out, what happens? Uh-oh, then we don't have any teeth. Then we have to eat pudding and applesauce our whole life, right? But dinosaur teeth grow back. Their whole lives, they grow back. They fall out, they grow back. They fall out, they grow back. That's why a lot of these plant-eating dinosaurs could have 1,000 teeth in their mouth, because they would fall out and grow in and fall out and grow in. So they're pretty unique in that respect, right? It'd be weird if we had that many teeth. Another thing that's very weird about hadrosaurs, if we look at this guy right here, look how his tail sticks kind of out this way. It doesn't hang on the ground like a lizard, right? It sticks out. Hadrosaurs' tails would stick straight out. They were really stiff, and it helped them kind of balance as they were walking, kind of like T-Rex. T-Rex's tail stuck straight out. It didn't dangle and drag on the floor. It stuck out. And they had little things in there along their bones, they were almost like having wires. They're almost like having wires in there that would help their tail stay really stiff. And we sometimes find those when we're digging fossils. They're actually tendons. You guys know what tendons are? You know what tendons are? If you clench up your neck, if you guys go like this and clench up your neck like that, do you feel these things right here in your neck? They feel like little ropes. Those are tendons. And those tendons are kind of like heavy strings or rubber bands that allow us to move around like that. And these guys had really strong tendons going all the way from their back, all the way down their tail to the end. So it helped them keep that tail up like that. So they're very unique animals. When they were born, they were really small. Their eggs were probably about this big. And when a hadrosaur baby was born, it was maybe 1.5 feet long, maybe about that long, about that tall, probably weighed only about 1 or 2 pounds. But if you remember one of the other things we talk about with dinosaurs, what's so unique about baby dinosaurs? What do they do that dinosaurs do in general that's kind of unique? Remember? They grow, right? Did someone get it? They grow super fast. You guys are right. You guys are answering these questions. I love that you remember this stuff. Baby dinosaurs would grow really fast. They had to, right? Because they lived in a world that they would want to get eaten up by other animals. So they had to grow super fast in order to get big enough to defend themselves against other creatures. So that being said, we looked at a few more. I'm going to show you a few more of these pictures because I know you guys are going to have some great questions. There's one of the really unique hadrosaurs right there with this growth thing coming out of his head. Oh, I want to show you this one again. Because this one, you guys remember that one? Yep, Parasaurolophus. Let's talk about Parasaurolophus for a second here. Because I don't know about you, but this looks pretty strange growing off the back of his head right there, right? Even this one back here has the same thing. You can see that big thing growing off the back of his head. And some of you are saying, oh, it's a horn or it's a spike, right? And it's for fighting and defending itself. It's actually not. And I know some of you guys know the answer to this question too. What this was for, it's not for fighting because it's growing off the back of his head, right? So if he was going to fight another dinosaur with that thing, he would come up to him and say, all right, we're going to fight, but hold on a second. I got to turn around this way because I have this big thing sticking out the back of my head. And that doesn't make any sense, right? You would never want to turn your back on someone you're going to fight. That wouldn't be good. What this was is kind of like a musical instrument, right? You're going, what? How is it like a musical instrument? Well, here's how. And you guys get to do this with me, okay? On the count of 3, I want all of you guys to take a big, deep breath only through your nose, okay? 1, 2, 3. Did you feel the air go way up here in your nose and then come down the back of your throat? Did you feel that air? Yeah? So what this guy would do is his nose was right here. When he took a big breath of air, that air would go all the way up, make a turn, and then come back down. This whole thing right here was hollow. It was kind of like a tube. And I got something here that's going to be kind of fun. This is a comparison of Parasaurolophus. So this right here is an ordinary cardboard tube from inside some paper towels in Lily and I's kitchen right here. And this is going to be our Parasaurolophus crest. We call this a crest on the back of his head. It's not a horn because it's hollow, it's a crest. And it was for 2 functions. One of them was to show off. A lot of dinosaurs, just like a lot of animals today, had things on their heads to show off. Look how gigantic my crest is. Look how huge my horns are. Whatever kind of dinosaur it was, just like today we have animals like deer and elk and moose and bighorn sheep that have the curly horns. The ones with the biggest and strongest ones, they're usually the biggest and strongest animals, and they want to show off how big and strong they are. Just like Parasaurolophus, he would show off with that thing, and she would show off. There was girls that had it too. But the main thing was, because that was hollow, because I could breathe air all the way up to the top and back, it made noises, right? I see Stella's got one of these too. Hey, Stella, if I take this and I blow into it, right? They can make all kinds of strange noises, and they would make those noises to communicate to each other. Maybe if there was a Parasaurolophus sitting there and all of a sudden he was eating and looked up and all of his friends were gone, he might be saying, hey, where did everyone go? And from around the corner, you hear his friend go, he'll go, okay, they're right over there, good, I'm okay. But what if he's eating and all of a sudden he notices all his friends are not paying attention to anything and he sees a Tyrannosaurus Rex coming down the way? He might go, he might try to warn everyone, hey, there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex coming, we got to get out of here. So that's what they would do. They would use this to communicate. They would also use to show how big and strong and how beautiful they were. If we look at this other picture right here that I showed you, some of these creatures had some strange crests on them. We call those crests, remember? Look at the weird crests on these different guys and the different colors. I think they would have been really spectacular animals to see. And you know what? There would have been a lot of them. Because they were herbivores, means they ate plants, right? They traveled in huge herds, probably like deer and elk and maybe cows. There'd be big herds of them, hundreds and hundreds of them. And they probably walked mainly on 2 feet, but they could run on 4 feet if they needed to. They maybe would be on 4 feet when they're eating food, but there'd be huge herds of them. And one of the ways they would defend themselves against like a Tyrannosaurus Rex is just like for example, zebras in Africa. How does a zebra protect itself from a lion? It hangs out in huge numbers, right? A zebra herd is gigantic. It has a lot of zebras, and that's how they kind of defend themselves. Unfortunately, there's going to be 1 or 2 zebras that get eaten by the lion. But as a whole, that's how they defend themselves. That and the stripes they have. Zebras have stripes to make it confusing for a lion to see. When they're all running, it's a bunch of lines moving, and the lions are like, I can't see what's going on. That's how they defend themselves. Maybe hadrosaurs had the same thing. We don't know what color they were, right? So maybe they had something similar like that, but that's pretty cool. So there's kind of a basis of hadrosaurs. There's all different kinds of hadrosaurs. Hadrosaurs are the duck-billed dinosaurs. And under that title of hadrosaurs, you had all kinds of different dinosaurs that were hadrosaurs. Some of them had crests. Some of them had pokey things like unicorns. Some of them didn't have anything at all on their heads. They just had big heads, like a horse has a big head. And instead of big horse lips, he had that duck bill, that weird duck bill, right? That's made out of keratin, the same stuff our fingernails and our hair is made from. So you guys got the foundation there for hadrosaurs now. Now I think it's time to take some questions because I see some kiddos there that are ready for some answers. So, Lily, lay it on me. What do we got?
Cormac asked, what did hadrosaurs eat?
Cormac, great question. What did hadrosaurs eat? Well, we can tell by the way their mouth is shaped, right? And the type of teeth they had that they ate plants. They were herbivores. They ate plants. Remember, if I show you this tooth from a hadrosaur, it's flat, right? It's kind of weird shaped. It's not like a tyrannosaur tooth is long like a knife, right? So these ones are used for grinding up plants. And that's how we tell how animals usually behaved and what they ate was what their teeth were like. So great question. Next question.
Stella asked, by bones, can you tell if a Hadrosaurus is male or female?
Oh, good question, Stella. She was asking by the bones. Are you talking about, she's talking about the unicorn dinosaur, right? The Syntosaurus. Yes, I see her nodding. She said, how by the bones, how can you tell which one is a girl Syntosaurus and which one's a boy Syntosaurus? Usually on that, Stella, that's a terrific question, by the way. You always have great questions. They usually can tell by the size of this thing sticking off the top of their head. In other words, if I was sitting here and I had an identical twin, someone exactly like me, same size and everything, and both of our heads would be the same size, right? But if my head had a really super long crest sticking out, and my twin, who we weren't sure if it was a boy or girl, had the same size head, but a real small crest sticking out of his head, it's very likely, and very much probably that I'd be the boy because mine was really big, and the girls is usually a little bit smaller. Because the boys are the ones in the animal world that usually have to fight and battle to get girlfriends, right? So they can have babies and stuff. And so they got to be tough and big and strong. So usually in the animal world, Stella, the crest on here, usually the bigger the crest, it's more likely it's going to be the male or the boy. But the bones themselves, if we didn't have the skull, if we just had the body, there's not really any way to tell if it's a boy or a girl. Not yet, especially with dinosaurs. They haven't figured it out yet. So if I have a skeleton to like a Tyrannosaurus Rex boy and a skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex girl, there's not really any way to tell if it's a boy or a girl. Maybe by the size of the head, if both the bodies are the same size. But some of that is stuff that science is still figuring out. Just like I like to tell you guys, that's what makes science so cool. It's because they don't have all the answers yet. It's always changing and growing. And the job of a scientist is try to come up with the best answers with the newest information that we have. Great question, Stella. All right, next one.
Nika asks, do they mate?
Nika asks, do hadrosaurs mate? They do. Just like all animals, mammals, reptiles, even fish, they mate at some point, right? And then the eggs get fertilized, and hadrosaurs did lay eggs. Like all reptiles, they laid eggs, right? Alligators, crocodiles, snakes, turtles, lizards, they all laid eggs. And hadrosaurs were no different. All dinosaurs, T-Rexes, giant brachiosauruses, stegosaurus, triceratops, they all laid eggs because they're reptiles. And hadrosaurs, they think, are one of the few dinosaurs that might probably took care of their babies. They would have a nest, right? Pretty big nest because they were big animals. And there'd be quite a few nests in one area. And they would lay all the eggs. And they probably had, the moms would all hang out and guard the babies. And the dads would go get food. So they probably took care of their babies, unlike a lot of dinosaurs. A lot of dinosaurs, they would just lay the eggs and they would leave and then hope the babies survive. But hadrosaurs probably took care of them. So great question. All right, next one.
Katie asks, how do they know that the crest made noise?
Katie asked, how do they know that the crest made noise? Well, I'll give you a good comparison, Katie. That's a good question too. Look at an elephant. If you came across an elephant and no one knew what an elephant was, and it had that super long trunk, and it could blow air through the trunk, and that air went all the way up into his head, with the animal world, one of the ways that animals communicate is making noises, right? And so when you have an animal like an elephant, it's designed to make noise. An elephant basically has a trumpet on its face, right? You see elephants, right? They sound like a trumpet. So there'd be no other use really as far as noises than that. And so they go by the design of something. Usually in the wild, when something has a lot of air involved in it, if there's air that moves through something aggressively, just like you can breathe air, usually if that's the case, that something there will make noise. I know that's kind of a weird explanation, but it's basically the design. It's kind of like if you see a trumpet on the ground and you pick it up, you look at that, you go, that thing's made for making noise, just because the way it's designed. So that's kind of what it is. It's all the design of something, how it's put together. Great question.
Oliver asks, how do they understand what it is that they're saying?
Hey, Oliver? Oh, that's an even better question. How do they understand what they're saying? Well, it's kind of like any other language. You know, if you go to some place like Russia or Japan or maybe an Amazon village in the jungle of Amazon, you're probably not going to understand their language, but they're going to be making noises, right? Just like they're not going to understand me talking or you talking, but really what talking is, what language is just noises being controlled, right? If we just make noises, those are just noises, right? But if we control those noises, it's, hey, how are you guys doing? It's great to see you. Thanks for being here today, right? So language is just noise coming out. It's all how our mouths control that noise. And in different languages, we control it differently, right? If I say, how are you in English, it's, hey, how are you? If I say it in French, I say, ça va. If I say it in Italian, come sta? Those are all sounds, different sounds, but they all say the same thing. And it's the same thing in the natural world with animals. The animals know what noises their friends are making. They recognize those noises because from the time they were little babies, they were hearing those noises from their moms and dads and their brothers and sisters. If a hadrosaur grows up and understands other hadrosaurs, it might not understand any noise a Brachiosaurus makes, right? Because they're going to be a totally different noise because this for their own animals, for Brachiosaurus families. So if that makes sense, that's kind of an explanation. It's all how we take those noises and mold them into how we understand those noises. Great. Next question.
Ida would like to know if Corythosaurus is a hadrosaur.
Corythosaurus. Who was it? What was the name?
Ida.
Ida. Hi, Ida. Great question. Corythosaurus. She said, was Corythosaurus a hadrosaur? And the answer is absolutely. In fact, I have one. Where is my Corythosaurus? Here it is, right here. There's Corythosaurus. Look at their head. They had a weird kind of just a big oval thing coming up off. It was like a little fin. It would have been really thin, right, if you looked at it straight on. But if it turned sideways, it had this big fin kind of thing. That's Corythosaurus. And yes, if you look at Corythosaurus's mouth, it has that unique duckbill face. So yes, you're absolutely right. Corythosaurus was a hadrosaur. Great question. I'm glad you know those dinosaurs. All right, next one.
Okay. Henry asked, how did Parasaurolophus defend itself?
How did Parasaurolophus defend itself? That's a terrific one because really we know it made noises, but that doesn't necessarily mean it defended itself. Or did it? Maybe it could defend itself to some, it could help its friends, right? If it saw a T-Rex, it could make noises and it would help his friends defend himself. And maybe if he got it just in time and saw that T-Rex from far enough away, he could turn around and run. But a lot of it probably had to do with hadrosaurs or Parasaurolophuses as a big group of them. They probably would hope to outrun a predator. T-Rex was giant, but T-Rex probably couldn't move real fast because it was so big, right? If you have a dog and an elephant running next to each other, a dog is going to run way faster than an elephant because the elephant's so heavy. So T-Rex couldn't run very fast, but hadrosaurs could probably move pretty quickly. And also, they would travel in big herds. Remember I used the comparison of zebras? So unfortunately, there'd be one or two that would get eaten, but the whole family, most of them would escape. And that's kind of the way they would defend themselves. And if it was a small enough animal, like maybe a raptor, like a Utah raptor or even a velociraptor trying to attack them, I bet that duckbill they had, remember it was made of keratin, like a rhinoceros's horn. So it was hard. Oops. My dog perked up when I knocked on the table. So it was hard. So even though it wasn't like a tooth, I bet that they could probably bite pretty good with that thing. So if it was a small enough raptor trying to attack it or bite it, there's a good chance a Parasaurolophus could turn around and give that raptor a pretty good bite. Yeah, so, but other than that, there's not a lot of defenses for plant-eating dinosaurs, unlike Triceratops and Stegosaurus, which makes them really unique. They have the spikes and horns. But a lot of plant-eating dinosaurs didn't have a whole lot to defend themselves, so they would just use what they had. But great question.
Cormac asked, how many types of hadrosaurs are there?
Cormac, another great question. How many types of hadrosaurs are there? You know what? As I mentioned, science is really cool because we're discovering new things all the time. I would probably say there's probably more than 50 different kinds of hadrosaurs. And even those are broken down into different families. So it gets a little confusing, but put it this way, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of hadrosaurs. Some of them full-grown are 10 feet long. Some of them full-grown are 40 feet long. So there's all different kinds. And then you got to remember they lived over long periods of time. They lived over millions of years. So they changed and evolved in millions of years. So there was a lot of hadrosaurs. But we're discovering new ones all the time. I've had the real exciting time myself of digging up some hadrosaurs, and they're really unique and really cool to find them. So great question. All right, looks like we got how much time before we got? We got about 10 minutes? We good? That's it? Well, you guys, terrific questions. I hope you guys learned a little bit about these strange creatures, the weird and wonderful hadrosaurs, the duck-billed dinosaurs. Hey, I want you to join me on Friday, day after tomorrow, because we're going to be doing a whole show about Allosaurus. We have this beautiful Allosaurus foot here from your donations. Check out this. Here's an Allosaurus hand. Look at the claws on that. That's one hand from an Allosaurus. So join us on Friday where the whole show is all about Allosaurus. You guys are fantastic. Do a little research, get some questions for Friday because it's going to be cool. And remember, fossilposse.com, and feel free to email me if you guys have any questions or if you have some good ideas. My friend Gabe in Maine, he had a great idea, just like my friend Stella in California, about flying things. So we're going to take it a little bit further. And next week, we're going to try and focus a show on prehistoric bugs and how big they got. You guys take it easy. Have a great day. And be patient with your mom and dad. Still be good. We'll talk to you soon.